Welcome, everyone. Welcome once again to another episode of our Global Employability Expert Series, which is brought by Virtual Internships to you as part of your internship program. So today we have a very interesting topic. We're going to discover leadership lessons from a life working for penguins research and conservation. This is a very unique topic with a very unique speaker. So I'm very, very happy to bring you this topic. My name is Mirta Aguirre, and I'm the head of employability of Virtual Internships. And before we go into today's topic, let's remember how this webinar works, okay? So we are recording this webinar so you can watch it later on. If you want to watch it again, you can share it with other people. And remember, you can always subscribe to our YouTube channel where you are going to find all our previous webinars, and you are going to be notified every time we have a new webinar uploaded, okay? So if you haven't done so, please go check our YouTube channel. You can just type Virtual Internships Global Employability Expert Series, and you can subscribe. Please ask many, many, many questions. Our speaker is here, happy to answer any questions. So you have the Q&A section box below, write them there. And if you want to make comments during the presentation, always use the chat, and it is nice that we can exchange among us. And if you have any question about your the specifics of your program, please reach out to your IEM, your intern experience manager, which is the person who is the person who has been helping you throughout your internship and probably has been sending you lots of emails. So let's meet our speaker. And I'm very, very honored to have him joining us. So let's discover who Pablo Garcia Borboroglu is, okay? So Pablo is the founder and president of the Global Penguin Society, an international coalition dedicated to the study and protect the world's penguin species throughout science, habitat protection, and education. He's also a researcher at the National Research Council in Argentina. He's from Argentina. And he's an associate professor at the University of Washington. He has spent 33 years in the field of marine conservation, and currently he's leading a global conservation effort for penguins in several countries. And his work has helped protect 32 million acres of ocean and coastal habitat for penguins and thousands of penguins worldwide. He received his PhD in biology in Argentina and has received several prizes and recognitions, many, many. He was a Duke University Global Fellow in Marine Conservation. He received the National Geographic Buffet Award, the Rolex Award for Enterprise, and he has been recognized by the Congress of Argentina, among many other prizes and recognitions. He recognizes that improved stewardship of the ocean requires both science and communication to modify people's attitudes and behavior. So he works extensively with national and international media. And so what he will share with us today in this webinar, let's explore that. So we cannot imagine a world without penguins. Penguins allow us to reflect how wonderful and fragile our planet is, as they are a species particularly impacted by the alteration in their habitats. Half of the 18 species of penguins are listed as threatened. Working towards their preservation for over 30 years, Pablo has become a world leader in conservation. So in this webinar, you will learn what skills you need to become a leader, just like he did, learn the importance of being a great communicator, discover what challenges he faced throughout his career and how he managed to make progress with his international organization, and discover, of course, about the mysterious and magnetic life of penguins, right? So welcome, Pablo. Thank you very much for being here today. I'm really honored to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mirta, for that introduction. And thanks to everybody that is joining us today and who are interested in what we do for penguins and for oceans and for our planet. So I will start sharing the screen now. Let me see. Oh, sorry. Let me go back again. Just a minute. There we go. Okay, I'll try again. Here we go. Can you see the image now?
Yeah, super.
Excellent.
Yeah, super. So nice.
Excellent.
So nice.
So again, good morning for us, good afternoon for others, good evening. I'm really thrilled to be with all of you today. And again, thank you so much for for your interest on what I do and how I manage to do what I love in this lifetime. So in this presentation, I'm going to be mixing things because it's kind of unusual. I normally talk only about penguins, but in this case, I will not only share what are the main conservation issues that penguins are facing, but also what are our challenges, because working in conservation is not only working in biology. We need to develop other skills to be able to deliver our conservation goals. And also, I will share some of our recent accomplishments. So first of all, I want to share with you that I think I work on penguins thanks to my grandmother, because when I was a small boy, I was 2 or 3 years old, she used to tell me amazing stories about her visits to see the penguins here in Patagonia, in southern Argentina, which is the place where I am right now, because she used to visit them in the in 1920s and enjoy them. I mean, ecotourism didn't exist back then. They were harvesting sea lions, elephant seals, killing whales, but she would enjoy visiting the penguins. And she transmitted me that connection with nature. And later on, when I visited a penguin colony for the first time, I really felt that kind of connection, like she left a message inside of me that kind of activated when I was surrounded by 500,000 penguins, and I realized that I needed to work for their conservation. In those years, 40,000 penguins died in the place where I am right now per year due to oil spills. And this is me 32 years old ago, rehabilitating, feeding an oil penguin. And in those moments, that was 91, there was a huge oil spill here, and 20,000 penguins died in 2 months due to the oil spills. So after the rehabilitation effort, I decided to train myself to go to the university to be able to help penguins in a more efficient way, because it was not only about wanting to do something. I needed to develop skills to be more efficient. So then I went to the university. I became a biologist, a PhD in biology. I met my wife, Laura, thanks to the penguins, because I met her in the field, and we had our 2 chicks. This picture, my boys are 25 and 22 now. So that was a long time ago, but we lived together in the field when I was doing the PhD. But things are not easy here in Argentina. Very unstable country, politically, economically, socially. When I was doing the PhD, we had a big crisis like the one we're having right now, and they stopped paying my salary to do the PhD. So I started to work as a tour guide again, because I paid my studies working as a tour guide with tourists in French and in English, because there were no people here speaking other languages, not many. And so since I had no salary to finish my PhD, I started to work as a tour guide. And when I was finishing my PhD, a big crisis appeared in Argentina, and our president has to flee with the helicopter. This is the pink house. This is like the White House in the States. This is the official government house where the president works. So we had 5 presidents in 2 weeks, and Mirta remembers that. It was a complete mess, the evaluation. So, but we are kind of used to that, to the instability. But I always try to kind of focus on the objective. Not. I never wanted my outside effects to stop me from doing what I think was important. So that was a mess, but I had to finish my PhD, but the universities were not offering courses. So I applied to Duke University that Mirta mentioned, and I went to the States to take 4 courses altogether in the summer session to finish my PhD. And finally, I got the PhD. But that was a very big mess because there were social riots in the streets, there were lootings. I mean, many of you, many maybe are familiar with this. And this is kind of normal with that. So against all odds, I managed to finish my studies, and then I decided to continue my work in the academic arena, but also on the conservation, because in the academic, you kind of do science and publish articles in science. But conservation is about using that science to make something real, to change the world. And this is what I thought was important for me. So now let's dive into the penguins world. So there are 18 species of penguins. They only live in the southern hemisphere, no penguins in the northern hemisphere. They don't fly, and due to all the conservation issues now, half of the species are considered threatened right now. This is the planet from the penguin perspective, with Antarctica in its center. There are colonies in Antarctica, but also in the south of Australia and New Zealand. In South Africa, I know I've seen in the chat that some of you are from South Africa, so we're going to talk about that later, and in Namibia. And there are also penguins in 4 countries in South America. And the yellow arrow indicates where I am exactly right now. I am in southern Argentina, in Patagonia. This image is kind of strange for most people because it looks like upside down, but this is how penguins perceive our planet. So due to the Hollywood movies and documentary films, people perceive that all penguins live on ice and in Antarctica, but there are only 4 species out of the 18 that live in Antarctica, like these funny Adelie penguins. Some others, like this penguin, they live in coastal desertic areas of Peru. He's hugging a cactus, as you can see. We even have tropical penguins, like the Galapagos penguins that lives in lava caves in the Galapagos Islands in Ecuador. And I guess you didn't know that we have penguins living in the forest. Can you see the penguin in the picture?
Oh yeah,
It,
I didn't know this. I did go to
don't
Galapagos
look,
and saw the penguins there, but I didn't reflect that that was an ice, that there was not a super cold context, but I could never imagine a penguin living there.
yeah, and this is, of course, we don't need to look up because they don't fly. So here is our little hobbit. This is New Zealand, the south of New Zealand. These penguins, we work with them. It's very difficult because they are almost hidden in the forest. They live under rocks and logs, and it's even hard to find them. So it's very challenging for us. And the key thing about penguins is that they have a dual life. They live in the ocean, but also on land. And that is a problem because they accumulate threats in both environments. And the threats mainly are climate change, fisheries, pollution, and human disturbance. Climate change for Antarctic penguins is changing the pattern of ice formation and melting. And that affects the habitat, the quality and the availability of habitat that penguins need to breathe, to build a nest, but also to eat, because the food depends on the ice. But climate change is also affecting dramatically the penguins outside of Antarctica, because climate change is modifying the distribution of the food, the distribution of the food, and penguins need food to be close to the colonies when chicks are small, because the adults go to the ocean and come back, and penguins don't fly. So they cannot fly and cover long distances quickly. It takes longer for them, and by the time they come back, chicks are dead, and that is affecting the many populations. Other issues are fisheries. Fisheries compete for food with the penguins because sometimes they fish close to penguin colonies. So you can see that now we're moving from a more biological aspects to more aspects related to human actions, like fisheries. Fisheries also are a problem because sometimes penguins get entangled, as you can see in the picture, in the fishing nets, and they die because they are caught during the fishing operations. Oil spills have killed thousands of penguins in 4 continents already. The good news is that lately, we haven't had a lot of big oil spills like 30, 40, 50 years ago, but now we have a big issue with plastic pollution. Penguins get entangled in big pieces of plastics. You can see this image with a penguin that it has a piece of bottle of water, plastic bottle of water around the neck. And sometimes penguins eat pieces of plastic that can harm them and even kill them. So other issue when penguins come on land are human disturbance. And this is a problem because we are reaching almost 8 billion people in this planet. So there's more interaction between humans and wildlife. And believe me, not everybody loves and respects penguins as we think that all people do. So that is why to help penguins cope with the main threats, we created the Global Penguin Society, which is an international organization that protects all penguin species through science, habitat protection, which means creation of protected areas in the ocean and on land, but also a huge education program. So let me tell you a little bit about this. So we work in many countries, even though we are based here in Argentina. We're strengthening our actions in New Zealand. This is the Fjordland crested penguin. It's a sacred penguin also for the Maori communities. And what a big part of our research project is to track penguins. I mean, to put satellite or GPS devices on their back to know how they use the oceans when we don't see them. So in the next video, Ursula, one of our representatives in New Zealand, is sharing some of the recent results.
So we use satellite trackers to follow their pre-molt dispersal. And we found that birds traveled up to 2,500 kilometers away, covering distances of close to 7,000 kilometers. That's halfway to Antarctica. No other crested penguin species known to travel that far during this time of their annual cycle.
This is amazing because we thought that these little penguins of 45 centimeters would be fishing very close to New Zealand. So for reference, this is New Zealand, this is Tasmania, Australia, and Antarctica is here. And they were swimming 7,000 kilometers, halfway to Antarctica, like Ursula described. So it's, again, we go from biology, now we're going to technology. We need technology, so we need to develop some skills related to technology and also to deal with some, like I said, industrial sectors, because this information allows us to see how they overlap with human uses, like deep sea mining, maritime traffic, oil development, fisheries, and then we create protected areas. So we need to deal and interact with those sectors. So in South Africa, I know some of you are from there, we also have action. We partner with colleagues there to help get information about the feeding trips of these penguins to stop the fishing industry, because they want to eliminate the current protected areas around penguin colonies. And there's a big issue going on right now with that. And this is a problem because the African penguin is endangered species. The population collapsed from 2.2 million adults 100 years ago to only 20,000 individuals now. So it's a big, dramatic decline. But there are many things that we are doing to help penguins. Right now, we're working on a big project here in Argentina to create a protected area of 600,000 acres, part in the ocean, part on land. And this is important because it's not only about protecting penguins. Through penguins, we protect a big, big array of many other species that coexist with the penguins, like southern right whales, killer whales, orcas, dolphins, seabirds, like many terrestrial animals that only live in Argentina, in Patagonia, and unique reptiles. So through penguins, we protect big environments and many other species that maybe are not so charismatic as penguins. So we protect penguins, but we also use them as the face for our conservation goals. And in terms of education, there's no possible conservation on this planet if we don't engage and educate the young generations. So one of our actions is to take kids from developing countries to visit their nearby penguin colonies and natural places. It is very common that even kids that live 20 minutes away from these places have never been able to visit them. So we teach them to value and learn them, because they stay in their little towns and they become decision makers, and they decide about the future of these penguins. So we take kids, we give classes, courses, and we also elaborate our own material. So this is something that we developed during the pandemic. It's called Conociendo a los Pingüinos. There is an English version called Meet the Penguins. And it's a learning and activity book that we use for our education program for kids under 6 and up to 13 years old. So one of our key actions also is we engage hundreds of adolescents and members of the community in cleanup campaigns, removing plastics from penguin areas. Every single year before penguins come from their migration, we remove all plastics from the nests, from the beach. So when penguins come, everything is neat and tidy. So here is let me share it with you, this brief clip where you can see our actions there. So this is something that we always do, but we don't only clean. We have campaigns in beach resorts to eliminate the use of single-use plastics. And we have global campaigns using penguins as the face of the campaigns to deal with plastic pollution worldwide, because penguins reflect the condition of the oceans and the health of our coasts. So through penguins, we can reach the emotions of people. So we also need some part of a social psychology to understand the psychology of people so we can change their behavior. And we can talk a little bit about this later. So as you can see, penguins are really key for ocean conservation because of their ecological importance. But the important thing is that people have a natural emotional connection with penguins, so they can be used as the perfect tool to inspire changes in the actions and in the choices and behaviors of people, of decision makers, of businessmen, and the international community. As you have seen, we have protected millions of acres of penguin habitat in the ocean and on land, and we have benefited 2.5 million penguins worldwide. We have done a lot, but there's so much more to be done. So we will continue working very hard to benefit penguins, the people that depend on ecotourism, and also the planet. So thank you very much, and I'm really looking forward to answering any questions you may have.
Pablo, thank you so much. I feel so inspired by your work, and honestly really thankful because you're doing amazing things for our world, right?
Thank you.
Honestly, thank you. And yeah, I couldn't stop thinking of, I visited the south of our country, Argentina, and I remember seeing all those penguins and feeling that emotional connection, right? Because they're such a nice creatures. And as I've said before, probably many of us had a teddy bear, teddy penguin, right? Or we've sort of these Madagascar movies and with penguins and well, so it's super amazing. And I was thinking as you were sharing all your work and everything you did, what a great career you created, right? And so the idea is to unpack a little bit how you did this, because you mentioned so many interesting things. So one thing that I found super interesting is like today you do so many great things that encompass so many different subfields within a bigger field, right? Because you started learning biology, you did a PhD. We know that a PhD is, like you said, is academia, right? Is researching, is writing, is really thinking. Like there's a lot of thought there, right? Like finding a problem and finding solutions. And it is mainly focused on, okay, the production of intellectual work, right? And then you also mentioned, okay, but I did not only do a PhD, I then went to say, okay, how can I translate this academic thinking into practice, right? Conservation. So all these skills that you develop through academia, then you said, okay, I need also to get into the real world, do something, different set of skills, different also knowledge and areas, right? And then you mentioned, okay, when I started doing all these things, I needed to start talking with different stakeholders, right? Politicians, businessmen, the international community, because you started to expand. Then we need more, definitely communication, leadership. So for our audience, see everything that Pablo had to develop, right? And start getting into it. It is not just about like knowing about penguins or hard science or hard skills about what he does, but so many different things. And then you mentioned, oh, okay, but eventually if we do want to create change, we need to work with people's attitudes and behaviors. And for that, we need to understand how people work and think and feel. So there we also have some psychology. So and all these, I want to stress in a context that was not easy, because Argentina is a country that is always challenging us to be creative, because the context is not easy. So all of these, you did it into very challenging situations, to put it in a way. So I think this is amazing. And so I want to start exploring a little bit about all these amazing things you've done, and so we can understand how you did it, and our audience can leave today this webinar with having some ideas of, okay, excellent, right? Perhaps in my career, I also need, independently on what each one does, we can all think of, it is super important to have different knowledge and skills from different areas, right? So Pablo, if you had to tell us, what is for you like the most challenging thing you do in your work, and how you learned it to do it?
So yeah, exactly how you describe it, because I was trained as an academic, as a biologist, scientific. And so we thought that the key thing was to make a presentation with a lot of tables and information, and if people get the information, then everything will be solved, and we will change everything. And it's not like that at all. So when I switched into more into the conservation work, I realized that conservation is about working with people, not with animals. I cannot tell the penguins, hey, there's a detour, move wherever. I mean, I have to change the behavior of people. So we need to develop new skills. And in that sense, like, communication was so important. I mean, I never stopped learning new tips about communications, because it's amazing and it's so important. You can be Einstein, or you can be the best Nobel Prize, but if you are not able to communicate what you think and what you feel, then there's no solution. There's no way to engage others. So like, I didn't kind of all the other skills, it was not like I make a master. Of course I wish I had, but there's no time in life to make a master of everything single skill. But I took opportunities, like brief courses, like some very brief training webinars, some things that can add other spices into their profile. So communication was key. And I had the chance to interact with National Geographic, and they changed our minds. I mean, like, no, only one picture if you can in the one slide, no text at all. The animal should be looking at the person. So all these different things, because they are studied. So different tips that are related to, because they study human psychology, what humans pay attention to, colorful things. We are like monkeys somehow. So all these communication tips are important. Also, how to speak to a big audience. Of course, it is intimidating. Of course, we don't really like that at all. I mean, but we need to, in our case, I work with a fantastic team of people. None of these have been possible without this great, um, great team that I work with. But communication, I think, was critical. And then the other thing, Mirta, was fundraising, because I can have the best ideas on the world, but I need money to make them happen. So we also have different kind of trainings in terms of fundraising, how to engage donors, how to maintain a relationship with them, and also to change our position. Because normally, like when we work in conservation, you are kind of begging for money, like, oh, please, like you are like a beggar. And that changed completely because, I mean, there's a lot of money on our planet. There's a lot of people that are really concerned about the conservation status, and they would like to be part of our team. They would like to do what we do. So we offer them the chance to partner with us so they can also have a sense for their lives. So they end up thanking you for allowing them to be part of this change they want to see in the world. So like, but that changed our psychological position. Instead of, oh, I want to help these penguins, can you please give me? No, it's not like that. It says, this is the goal. There are many different techniques for that. And also to develop a relationship with them, because they like, for example, they like what we do. They like penguins, but they give money to people. People give money to people. They trust you. They trust the individual. So all those different kind of tips that have been helpful. And Mirta, every single day we have a new kind of challenge and something else we need to learn. Another thing that I remember now is negotiation. When you go to political tables, when you are creating a protected areas, you have to engage them, negotiate with them, because there are interests in fisheries, oil, whatever. So that is something that we also have to train a bit, to be more successful, right?
Yeah, so I was thinking about what you said. I'm a public speaking professor. I teach public speaking in university. And so I was just reflecting on what you just said. And it's so true, because what you are sharing with us is like how we can change our position and how we can change the narrative of what we do by positioning us ourselves in a different way, right? Because, okay, I'm not begging for money. I'm actually giving you the opportunity to be part of this amazing work that I do. And that's super important, because whether it is conservation like you do, or whether it is many of our audience today who may be thinking of starting a known company or a small business, it is not about, oh, I need money. It's like, I want you to be part of this amazing project we have, right? And that also comes with being assertive. Assertiveness means like, how can I find a way of sharing my ideas in a powerful way where my desires are respected, but also the other person finds it acceptable that I am asking, right? Or for something. And this is super important, because in communication, like you said, well, communication is a skill we all need for any field, right? And at the beginning, one might think, oh, but I'm a biologist. I work with penguins or animals. Who do I need to communicate with? And like just you said, well, okay, you're not going to communicate with the animal. Maybe yes, but well, not with language, of course. But yes, you have to speak with other people, and other people are the ones who are going to help you and be part of your team. So I think this is a first very super key reflection for our audience, right? How important the role of communication is, how we present ourselves, and the people we create a team with, right? Who can also enhance our work, boost our work, and also find together ways of sending across the right message, right? I think that's super, super important. And then you mentioned negotiation. What can you share, like perhaps something you learned negotiating or talking with so many different people? Because you said, okay, your work entails speaking also with politicians, decision makers, regular people. What have you found about negotiation? Your ideas? What is it that you learned?
Learn that humans, we all want something. There's, I mean, when we sit at a table to negotiate, it's very important to understand what the other part want. What do they want out of this? So try to see how can you give them what they want, if but without affecting your interest, and how to find a middle point. The key thing is to find a common interest. I mean, what is that thing that we all agree on? What is that little thing that we all want to happen? Maybe we want it to happen from different perspectives. Like, I want a healthier planet for the penguin, but they also need a healthier planet to be more productive in terms of fisheries or in terms of whatever. So there's something we agree on. How can we, lose a little bit, because we all lose in negotiations. We have to sacrifice a part of what we want. We cannot have everything. So, but the key thing is like, okay, what do they want? What is it that they want? And the best negotiators are the kids. Children are professional negotiators. They negotiate all their time with their teachers, with their parents, with their brothers, because there's something they want, and they will try to, find a way to get it. So that's amazing. And something that it came to my mind, Mirta, when you were saying, is that maybe when I give this presentation, it looks like, oh, everything was so easy, and he could deliver everything, and it's full of problems, full of obstacles. And so the key thing is how to overcome those obstacles. Like, I failed my English exams in primary school. I went to March. I didn't even have the chance to go to the exams in December because my grades were so bad. But thanks to that, I could study English. And I realized that it was amazing after failing all my tests. And that changed my life, because without English, I wouldn't be able to be with you today, or I wouldn't be able to conquer the world somehow with our penguins. So it's not like everything was so easy and things were raining, opportunities were raining. No, it was not like that. I got an award from National Geographic, but I think I was nominated like 5 times. No, so it's not like, oh, everything is a piece. So don't get depressed when you are frustrated. I mean, there's full of problems all the time. Don't think that problems will go away. The thing is that don't try to continue, try to see what can you learn out of that, and move on. I mean, we all have failures, we all get frustrated, but there's something that you want to do in this life. And there's one exercise that I always love, and because I always say, like, okay, we all want something in our lives. We have to know, to work to identify what we want. Sometimes we can change what we want, but the exercise is, if you have success secure, I don't know if this is correct in English, so correct me, Mirta. If success was secure, what is it that you want to do? If somebody tells you that you will succeed, what is it that you forget about the obstacles? What do you want to do? And then your passion appears. And then what do you really want appears. Because many times you say, oh, I would like to be a good painter, but I don't have the skills. I don't know where to start. And then you start thinking about all the limitations, and then that limits you. So if you remove that, then you will realize what really is what you want.
Amazing. And that we have a question from the audience that goes just in that sense. It says, what makes you complete what you do, and what is your constant motivation behind this?
So I think that, I know, for some reason, penguins are my inspiration. Their life is not easy. I mean, it's not easy to be a penguin. They don't fly. They do so many sacrifices to breed their chicks. They swim hundreds of kilometers. Like this penguin, like you see this one, it's a Magellanic penguin. This is it's not a stuffed penguin. It's it's made of resin, but this is the real size. They swim they can live up to 35 years. They swim times around the planet in their lifetime,
Wow.
swimming, to breed their chicks. They make a lot of sacrifices. They defend their chicks from pumas, foxes. So they're so brave and determined. So when I have to make a big decision, I need to go to a penguin colony and be surrounded in that energy. That motivates me because I say, oh, if these guys can make it, we need to make it. And I think that is the motivation. Of course, there are many problems. And sometimes you just have to be patient. You don't need to get what you want now. Or just because you cannot do it today, you give up. No, just be patient and persistent. This is Argentina, as Mirta said. This is very difficult a country. Sometimes we know we're going to get it, but maybe not now, and we wait. Our processes have 10 years. I mean, sometimes we identify a need to create a protected area, then 10 years later we create it, 10 years later we implement it, but step by step. And of course I get sometimes frustrated and depressed, but I try to focus on what I think is important. And the same for life. Something I didn't mention, Mirta, is that I studied laws at the beginning. I went to the law university, and I was 2 years, and then it was not for me. But so I changed career. So that's another thing. It doesn't mean you can change. It doesn't
Well,
mean
that
you're losing
leads
your
us
life.
to one question our audience is asking. Do you have any suggestions for those who have not discovered their passion yet?
Yeah, explore. Never stop exploring. Try to do something you never did, and then maybe you will discover. Try to keep on moving, keep on exploring. Do the exercise of, okay, if succeed was secure, what would you like to do? Maybe wait. Sometimes it's a matter of time, when maybe you are too young and you need a couple of years to really find what you want, because you are changing. I remember myself when I was young, and I see my children, 25 and 22. They're still exploring the world. But you can do something and then change. For example, the 2 years in law school, it was not lost. I use it every day, what I learned in those 2 years, even though I didn't finish. But all the legal things that I learned, I use them to make a legal case for the penguins. So everything has to, all the skills you develop and all the experiences you live are useful to discover your passion.
That is amazing, an amazing advice. And I'm sharing with here in the link a really interesting TED Talk by a Stanford University professor who has who uses design thinking as an approach to designing our life. And he says exactly what Pablo is saying, try different things, right? Most of us, we don't know what our passion is, but we won't know it until we start doing many different things, right? It is very difficult to find our passion. For those of you who knew right away what you want to do the rest of your life, that is amazing. You're so lucky. But for many of us, it is not a straightforward path. It is not that we just, this is what I want to do. Many times we need to try one thing, try another thing, realize this is not for me, meet new people, exchange, discover. So what Pablo is saying about discovering, always moving, that is really a really nice approach to have. So I'm leaving you this TED Talk here so you can watch it later on. It's super interesting. And they go into the same sense of going and discover. Yeah, do we have another question that we have in the chat? I wanna write it there so we ask Pablo. And something that you said, Pablo, which I found really also useful and important, is that it wasn't really lost time, because what you learned at law school allowed you to gain different knowledge, different skills, and a new perspective for later on when you started working with penguins.
Yeah, exactly. And there's something that Jude wrote in the chat, Mirta. It says, don't you think that by keeping exploring, one could lose focus, while focus is one of the elements of success? Completely. It depends on the stage where you are. If you are still exploring, if you really have no clue, explore, be curious, see where you can fit, or where you feel that is your place. But then once you decide, and then you say, okay, this is what I want to do, then you have to pursue that goal. And of course, there will be many things you don't like. It's not like this is not PlayStation. It's not like it's a game and everything will be fun and everything. No, I mean, to be a biologist, I had to study physics, chemistry, mathematics, whatever I didn't kind of like, but I needed to. I mean, there's always a price to pay for what you want. So if you don't have a clue, explore. Then when you decide, okay, focus there, but it doesn't mean that you cannot do other things, because I'm 53. When I was studying, I mean, you had things were like boxes. You had to do, you could be a lawyer or a scientific or an architect or whatever. It was really kind of identify your profile. Now, young generations are much better. Your brain is much more, so much prepared to explore other things, to jump from one things, to mix profiles. And that is amazing, because the key is to be kind of specialized on something. I mean, to develop a unique skill, and young generations, I love, because you have a special brain and you can do many things all together.
Yeah, that is amazing. That is so true. And the importance of having different types of knowledge and skills, right? And like you mentioned, in your work, you also work with technology, right? And the industrial sector. So you need to know a little bit about the latest technology trends, devices, things. So the importance of being all the time learning, that's quite a very critical aspect in nowadays careers, right?
And also something like, of course, in our work we are expanding all the time, so we need a lot of skills. It doesn't mean that I will be the graphic designer, I won't be the financial guy. I mean, it doesn't mean that I have to be doing everything, but just to know the things to improve my profile, and then realize and recognize when I need to hire somebody that is good at that other area. So like, I need a graphic designer. It's not that I'm going to take a webinar on that. I'm going to hire somebody that knows about that. But that's also part of how you create your space, how you create your team. And by team, I don't mean like your staff. It doesn't mean people, just colleagues, just how you create teams working with other colleagues that are very good at other skills. So a partnership is amazing in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you mentioned how you get inspired by penguins, right? When you are also having like a hard time, you think of them and the amazing things they do. What else have you learned from penguins?
So I think penguins are really loyal and really determined. You know that penguins, to keep their chicks alive, they are monogamous, meaning that they have one female mates with one male in each breeding season. But then after 6 months, they go into the ocean and they go different ways. But then they meet again in the same nest, and we follow couples that have been together at least 17 years. So they're very loyal, they're very
Wow.
resistant, and very determined. So I admire them because of that loyalty as well. And it's much better for them because they know each other. They can match their shifts, because when one is in the ocean, the other is taking care of the chicks, and then they shift and they take turns. So that is something that I learned from them, to be also unafraid of challenges. They are small. Sometimes you see that foxes or whatever approaching their nest and they just go out, and they're so small, but they still, protect their. So don't think that they teach us that. Don't think that because you are small, you cannot do something.
That's amazing.
Penguins can.
Yeah. Someone
And
asks, do you think that loyalty plays a role in the business world today?
what a interesting. So there are many different ways to to answer these questions, because it depends. It all depends. Of course, if you are in a place where you're not happy, or where you're not treated like you should, maybe that's not loyalty. You have to be loyal to yourself first. You don't have to betray yourself first. I mean, you are the one, you have to be loyal, and then negotiate and see. Because when you say business, it can be difficult. Um, but yeah, I think you have to be loyal to your dreams, to your goals. It doesn't mean that you have to quit or whatever. You just see what happens, and look for other opportunities. But it doesn't mean that because you've been working for 5 years in one company, and if for some reason you're not happy, or they're not treating you well, or for whatever reason, you need to stay there forever and sacrifice your life. No, loyal to yourself. That's the key.
Yeah, definitely. Learn from penguins. That's amazing. And so, Pablo, before we wrap up, what kind of advice could you give to your younger self? Right? If you see yourself when you were 18 years old, what could you tell to your younger self? What kind of advice? What would that be?
So I think it would be trust in yourself more. Relax. I would say relax to myself. Like, don't be anxious. I mean, it will come, and enjoy the process, not only the goal. This is more like a man thing. I think women are so much better in this, because we have like a goal. The goal, you have to deliver the goal, and women, they know much better to enjoy the process. It's not only about the destination, it's about the trip. So like, I would tell that to myself. So like, relax, trust in yourself, and be patient, but also persistent.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. Well, everyone, this has been amazing. I'm smiling. I'm super inspired. I feel like this is amazing. Thank you so much, Pablo, for all your work, honestly. And I know you will have soon a movie made about your life and your work, right? That's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a kind of a new production, something new. We already finished filming in Patagonia. We will film in New Zealand, and hopefully next year we will have a movie which is meant to inspire the new generations to dedicate their life to conservation. Regardless of what you do, you don't need to be a biologist to work in conservation, because whatever you do, you can be an engineer, whatever, bookkeeping. But if you have your planet in mind, there are so many things you can do to help.
Definitely. Well, so here you can find Pablo on LinkedIn. Look him up, stay in contact. So maybe next year we can see also the movie. And honestly, this has been super nice. And for everyone, thank you for being here. Hope you enjoyed this webinar as much as I did. I'm super inspired. And remember that as part of the program, we have 2 coaching calls. The coaching calls are there to reflect, like we did today, to unpack a little bit about skills development, what you need, what you want to do after your internship. And so do take advantage of this. And remember, you can watch our previous webinars. So thank you so much, Pablo. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. And thank you, Pablo, once again, for your amazing work and everything you're doing. Hope everyone have an excellent day, and thanks for having been with us today. Bye, Pablo. Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.